This is a post-Christian podcast.
Welcome to the Revolution Church podcast.
Welcome to Meet Your Congregation. It's me, Caleb, sitting here with Pastor Jay Baker. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how's it going? It's been weird. I've been calling Pastor a lot.
Yeah, right. Pastor Jay. Today is a special episode for me because we are talking to the man from whose loins I leapt, Greg Rowe.
Don't say it. You're funny.
The man who was involved in my DNA genetical makeup, Gregory Paul Field Rowe.
Oh, great.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, no. Hey, it's super to be here.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, yeah, y'all are just amazing, actually, to me. And Kev, it's so funny. We trying to give you a Christian education, which maybe you're suffering from. But and you one day did come home from school saying, "Dad, do you remember when I leapt from your loins?" I was like, "I don't know if I want to talk about that." Okay.
The Bible does have some really explicit explanations for things. And you're like, where did you get that? And they're like, the Bible. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they literally translated what Jesus said, if it would kind of be more like that,
Yeah.
More vulgar.
Oh.
Well, Dad, it's really nice of you to do this, and means a lot to me. You've been getting involved a little bit, interacting with Revolution here recently.
Yep.
And I was telling Jay I was tearing up a little bit this morning, texting you, just thinking about you getting involved and everything. And it means a whole lot to me.
It means a lot to me that you're involved, yeah.
We usually start these things out with kind of a generic question, just kind of asking how you got involved with Revolution, but this is kind of more of an obvious answer probably. It's because your son is involved in it.
Okay.
But you've physically been to Revolution twice when you've come to visit, and we'll say that Revolution right now is based in Minnesota, and you are a Duluth native.
Yeah, born in Little Fork. I just want to make sure you know that.
Oh, born in Little Fork, yeah.
Yeah, Little Fork, just north of Big Fork. Yeah. Up there by the Canadian border.
Yeah, if you look in the sky at night, the Little Fork pours into the Big Fork.
Oh, is that it?
So you can find your way home. How about this? What's your impression of Revolution? How have you? What are you taking away from it? Why are you interacting with it?
Tell you what, I really believe this, that you all are changing the world, because God's changing the world through the church, and the church needs to be changed. I was thinking about this a minute ago while we were waiting to talk. God's looking down from heaven going, "Oh, this church thing's not going too well." He's from Minnesota. Yeah.
God's from Minnesota.
I knew it.
He created Minnesota in his own image.
Yeah.
He's very cold.
So I'll call some people to help with that, and so there you are. That's why I believe that. And Kev, the fact that you just got moved to Minneapolis, of all places to go, right? And that is a calling, and that came up this morning in your service about calling, and we're all called. It's just you're called there. It's really cool.
That's sweet of you, Dad. Yeah, just for any listeners who don't know, I'm a crazy person who decided to move from Kansas City to Minneapolis without having even really had any interaction with Jay, and just decided to superimpose myself into the position.
And it worked out really well, which I'll tell you, in the past, that has not worked out so well.
Yeah.
Really?
And when I got here, you were like, "Oh shit!"
I was like, well, the fact that we're still talking is amazing.
The fact that we're friends now.
You just raised my curiosity, Jay. What's not worked out well?
I've had people show up and say, "Oh, I feel like I like what your work is doing and what you're doing, and I've come here to help and blah, blah, blah." And then they realize, that I don't have it all together, you know what I mean? And that I'm introverted, and that I'm not always there, and we don't have a facility or something. And they just get kind of let down, you know what I mean? They kind of have like this pedestal or something that I can never live up to. And, but Caleb is what he's done is just taken all that and said, all right, well, here's some other ways we can reinvent the wheel and reinvent what you're doing. And he's added to the work. I think it's other people who are like, oh, just come and tell me what to do. And, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you what to do. And Caleb's come and been like, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this. I'm like, yeah, right, kid. And then we've done all those things, and they've transformed to what we're doing. So that's been pretty amazing. Your son's done a great job. And,
he is. Yeah.
And also just knowing that, and it's funny because it's not like unlike half the people or even more than half the people we interview about Meet Your Congregation that don't have some disagreements with our theology or ideas and stuff. We're all human and we're all doing our best to try to understand what is this God thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but we do have differences. But I just think hearing your words, your kind words, and knowing that you support Caleb, that's a big deal. When your family supports you and cares about what you're doing, even if they don't see 100% eye to eye, it makes a huge difference. And I don't think people realize the impact that can have. Because I think so many of the people we deal with have been pushed away even by their own family members, because they've left the church, because the church, they didn't feel comfortable, or maybe they felt hurt by the church and they left, and their family was like, well, then if you leave this, you leave us, and that's not, to me, that's not what family should be. Family should be, hey, we're in this together. We might have differences, but we're blood, and so I think that's really incredible. You've been,
and
so
we do have differences. Of course, Caleb, we go on forever, but the spectrum of doctrine. But the point being, we're brothers in Christ. It's cool to have a son who's your brother too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, that means a lot.
Good.
Yeah, it really touched me too. I told Jay about this right after it happened because it moved me so much. When I'm getting a little bit emotional now. When you sent me that message and you said that we have the same, or something about how we have the same heart and different doctrine, and that doesn't matter or something.
Yeah, right.
That was really encouraging.
Yeah. Doctrine's just doctrine, And so I grew up Baptist, as your mother did. Your lovely mother, wife of 34 years, and your brothers, Alex, Nate, Sam, Nick, and that you've been a great big brother to them, and you've been real with them, right? And it's interesting to me too that you and at least 3 of your brothers came to me one day, each at your own time, saying, "I'm an atheist now." It's like, oh, and when you came to me, that was kind of offensive, actually. I thought, well, he's just abandoning everything I believe in.
Yeah.
And so I went to our pastor. I said, oh, my son just told me he's an atheist. He said, yeah, my daughter just did that. So I told her, it's an important decision. It's your decision. I said, okay, I guess I should be more open. And you've come around, man. It's like the pattern, isn't it?
Yeah, right. That's the funny thing. And I was thinking that just a second ago. I was like, well, going back in, here we go. We're going to go change this thing, and I'm going to try to reclaim some things and try, and I feel like with church, my approach is I feel like there's a sinking ship, and
yeah,
I jumped off it for a sec, and then I was like, well, going back in, here we go. Buckle up, boys, here we go.
Oh, no, Ken, it is sinking. And y'all are, that's why I'm saying you're changing work, they're changing what the church is doing, and it's amazing.
In what ways do you see us changing, or in what ways do you think that it needs to be changed?
Well, the openness, so, let's see, how do I say this? When we're in the Army, we'd go places, and you'd see the chaplain, you'd talk, and they'd get you somewhere in the church to contribute. I think, Jay, you've mentioned this too. Like, it's selective, right? It's exclusionary. When we were all in the military, suddenly it was, sure, go sit in the back and listen to this or that, join this or that group. But I said, well, I've led this or that group. It's going to be cool if, we would do more and allow people to do more. And so back in Kentucky, that was very hard. It took like 7 years for them to accept me, becoming a deacon and involved in like a dozen ministries. And then we went to Kansas, and it started all over. I couldn't take it.
Right.
Yeah, that exclusion happens to everyone. And we keep hearing that over and over again.
Yeah. That's a really cool thing about Galatians, which, Jay, have you ever heard of that book?
Yeah.
Jay's
you don't like the 4th chapter. Okay. I was joking,
It's just boring. I don't mind it. It's just, I don't want to get rid of it, but it's a little bit.
Okay.
It's the low point. It's it's that the lull.
You need the low
excitement back.
You need the low to contrast the highs.
Yeah, it's like a good adventure movie. You gotta have everything's gone bad, and now back again.
Paul is not well accepted anymore, right?
He's divisive for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like Paul, which is strange because it's usually a lot of people who think a lot of similar thoughts to me, and I'm going like, well, I don't know how I would have come to these thoughts if it wasn't for Paul. So I feel like I'm trying to reclaim Paul a little bit and be like,
well, good.
You know.
Yeah, wrote half the Bible.
Yeah. He did a pretty good job, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually the direction that I was going, was saying that. Well, I don't know if you were, because I know you now listen in live, which is great, and you can comment and interact with other listeners, which is
that is so cool.
A cool thing. And I don't know if you heard this in Jay's talk today, which is probably going to date when this was recorded. But anyways, but Jay mentioned something that stuck with me was the fact that we just keep needing to be reminded about inclusion, and it's just funny how quickly we can forget those things.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about you. And you mentioned the online chat. It's so cool because you don't have to lean over in a church and in a pew and whisper in the person's ear next to you.
Yeah, right.
You can chat.
We'll have
Could you imagine having live tweets
chat
behind you?
Up on the screen behind you. LOL, I agree.
I saw a band.
Where do you want to go for lunch? That's what most of the messages would be like.
Yeah. Where do you want to go for lunch? When is he going to be done talking?
It's also funny because I went to the Little River Baptist Church here in Virginia, and it was founded in like 1752 or something. But it's that classic, you sit in a pew, you wear your tie, and yet, they're just good people, and we kind of mentioned that again today too. It's like, how do you connect? And Jay, last week I think he said, answering a question. It's really cool. I think that you have the after questions.
Thank you, Caleb.
Yeah, there you go. And saying, how do we get real with each other in church? Like, well, we don't. That's not church. So, and I've been in ministries where they really get real. I mean, it's really
yeah.
Yeah, and you were that was just a prison ministry thing that you were involved with.
Yeah, I just went. You go to the chaplain, you become an assistant chaplain and stuff at the prison, and that was Congressman Jeff Davis, right, Kentucky, good old friend, and he dragged me to prison. It's scary going to prison, They open those doors, click.
Oh, I know. It's scary.
Yeah. That said, like we're saying, there are ministries where you can just be real with each other, and you got to establish that safe, like we're saying last week, space to just be totally open and honest with each other. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jay, you mentioned AA, and I wanted to say I think we should come up with the AA, which would be atypical alcohol. I was like, because you go to those things. I think you mentioned this too. Like, and there's some legalism, maybe?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, the book.
Big book thumpers, we call them.
Yeah. But just be open and honest with each other and say, I'm not like maybe the typical person who goes to those meetings. But we need things like that. I think we all need 12 steps. Yeah,
me too. I mean, it's such a gracious thing too, because it's you grow and you learn to accept your own you take responsibility for your own mistakes. I mean, I know doing things about like around resentments. I was like, I resent this person because of this, and then I did my own stuff, my own inventory, and then realized half the reason I resented them was because of things I couldn't handle. It wasn't them. There was things of mine. You own your own things. You take their stuff. You make amends. There's just all sorts of grace in there. And then if you screw up and you mess up, you pick up a white chip and you go back the next day. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like you can't get kicked out of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And that's, could you imagine if church was that way?
No. Yeah. And the openness. I think anybody who drinks maybe should go to AA at least one time. Because I went in and they, because Jane was concerned, when I got into my 40s and we moved, I I started drinking it like every night because it had lost my connection to ministry. And so I went there and they asked the questions, and at the end of it, they said, well, maybe, you're like 3 out of 5 answers. So, but you come to meetings, but they're just such good people.
Yeah,
they really are.
I think did someone say in Afterglow about the fact that it's or no, someone said in an earlier interview about how the fact that it's not run just by like one person.
Yeah, no, it's run by all the people. Right?
Yeah,
it's like a community. There's no leaders and there's no advertising and there's no. I mean, it's just really, it's an amazing program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Jay, what would you take from that for church?
Oh, definitely the community aspect of it. The way that the community is set up, and that no one's thought is above the other person's thought. You know what I mean? And it's take what you want and leave the rest kind of concept. They say a lot of times in meetings, like, hey, take what you need out of this and just leave the rest. And I find that to be really powerful because there's so many good things that I've taken and other things that I didn't, but later did. I just wasn't ready at the time. And I don't know, this like kind of accountable. You read kind of the idea of what AA is at the beginning, and you do a prayer, but the idea is you constantly remind yourself what the steps are and why you're there, and it just keeps everybody just that community of just the community that you can't be kicked out of, the community that you can never be a stranger in. Once you're there, you're there. All you have to do is share this desire not to want to drink. You don't even have to. You can still be drinking it as long as you have the desire to not want to drink. And it's just the idea of reconciliation and healing and grace and there's another word I'm looking for, restoration. The idea of this constant restoration. Yeah. It's always everybody's restoring, and the fact is that I'm helping you to help myself, but also to help you. You know what I mean? It's like a cycle of like. I've got to give back in order to stay alive, and everybody kind of realizes that it's like we all have this necessity to be there for each other, but also that we'll die without it. So I don't know. I think that's a really beautiful concept. I mean, there's a lot of things I would take from AA, but those are just a few things I could think off the top of my head.
You just reminded me, so my father was Lutheran and mother was Baptist, and we were Baptist growing. But so the Baptist thing is, once saved, always saved. But the Lutheran thing is, I have been saved, I'm being saved, I will be saved.
Yeah.
Yes. That it's like you're saying, is it a desire? Am I wanting to be good? It's not, oh, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
No, are you wanting to be good enough? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like also, they always used to say KISS in AA, which means keep it simple, stupid. So I was kind of like that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, y'all remind me too of your upbringing, right? Do you have any issues you want to talk about that? Things we didn't do right. That parents could benefit from.
Oh man. Well, it kind of goes a little bit maybe back to. I want to preface any way that I respond to that by saying it kind of goes back to the whole thing of intent, and you all were intending to do well, and it wasn't like you were trying to be, even though you're an army man, you weren't trying to be militant. You know what I mean? You weren't trying to be invasive. But, and I will also say, I think I can say this in a nice enough way, but like, I think that there is something to be taken from the fact that me and my 4 brothers, all 5 of us who were raised, private school and all that stuff, I think there's something to be observed just in the fact that we all pushed back against it. I think that there's something being done wrong in trying to. I heard this metaphor that I really like in a small group that I used to go to, that you don't, when a caterpillar is going to become a butterfly, it's not smushed into a butterfly mold. It's not like you take a caterpillar, you smush it into a mold, and then it comes out a butterfly. It's that you nurture it and you feed it, it is fed and it lives and whenever it's ready to, it becomes a butterfly. And not to say that being a Christian is being a butterfly, and very inclusive with my religious beliefs personally right now. That's just where I'm at. What makes the most sense to me. But anyway, I don't know. I just think there's something to be observed from that. Just the fact that like so many people who are raised in an environment, and a lot of it was the schooling. It wasn't even directly just the parents. It wasn't you directly necessarily, but like I think that being in an environment where it is reinforced by the authorities that you have to be this way, and that this is right and this is not. I think that every teenager rebels against, well, most anyway. It's a pattern in teenagers to rebel against authority, to have authority issues and stuff like that, and so even if just for that period of their life, that's why punk rock music exists, But yeah, I think I don't know how to do it better if that's what you're asking. I don't know. I can just provide those observations, But I'm not. I don't know what the remedy is. I'm on the inside now, trying to fix it from the inside. The philosopher Jack Caputo said we need to tear down the walls of the church from the inside, and that's something like in my kind of deconstruction and reconstruction that just like a phrase that really, really stuck with me. Tearing down the walls of the church from the inside. Because I don't think there should be walls,
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. Two things came to mind when you're talking. First was one time Alex told me at, I don't want to name names of schools, but one time in the Christmas school, there was a 3-hour gathering where they said, someone's going to come forward. Come on, you're going to come forward. We're going to wait here till you come forward. It's like, that's such manipulation. And I look back and thought, I had no idea that was even going on.
It's not like it's not like you were choosing for that to happen, but that was the environment that we were in that school.
There's something else you said last year that kind of shocked me, and that I realized it's true, and that is that I wasn't there for you early in life. And like the day you're born, I got orders to go to Europe, right, with the Army. And it took some months, but I found a place for y'all to live, and you and your mother came over. And then I set you up in the house and said, oh, by the way, at 4 a.m, I'm leaving for another few months. But that's how it was for you. And the good thing was your mother was there for you, right? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And again, you were doing your best. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody at all. And that was a big thing definitely in my life, was coming to realize like, well, even if like my teachers and everyone were being destructive in their actions, I think that they were all well intended enough. I don't know. I that's how I try to approach conflict, is saying like, where is this person coming from in their intentions? Were you gonna say something, Jay?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say too. It's like, looking back for me, like one thing I don't do is I don't make my kids go to church. Because I was made to go to church, and sometimes I wonder, like, was I brainwashed to believe everything I believe? If I had a free choice, would that have been different? So I don't force I take them when their mom can't take them on Sundays, but usually I ask the mom to take them on Sundays as well, so they don't have to go to church until I feel like they're at an age where they can really kind of understand it more. Yeah. I'm glad to ask them. They ask me questions about God and stuff like that, and I give them my best understanding. But so that's something that I've tried to change with how my parents did it, because I went to Christian school as well, and church seems like almost every single day
pretty much.
But at the same point, I've talked about this in sermons before, is like how we should write letters to the people in the church that disillusioned us, and thank them, because we're doing the work we're doing now is because we saw that. Because Caleb got forced to sit in a room for 3 hours till somebody came up and was probably going like, this is shit. This is not real. This is not the truth. And for us now to say, well, we're not going to just abandon ship. We're going to stay in it and try to fix it. And even those people who have left the faith, and you hear them talk about it, and I'm going like, well, you wouldn't be at your enlightened point of your life where you don't believe in a being in the sky or whatever, if it wasn't for the stuff that you had gone through, and I'm like, so we should learn that we can't go back and change anything. We can maybe we definitely can learn from the past and not make the same mistakes.
That's a good point.
But the fact is realizing that we wouldn't be the people we are And yeah, I have a lot of mental health issues and different things like that, but I don't know what it would have been like had my parents kept their ministry, and where my mental health would have been like that, or who I would have been, or if I would have been one of those people who were hurting other people in the name of Christ. So, I've learned to kind of also appreciate those hard times, appreciate those who even put me in bad situations, because I now as a human being don't want to put other people in those situations. So it's learning to have gratitude for even that, and realizing like those bad situations may have molded me more so than any of the good times that I had, and maybe made me a better father as well, with my own father, the hard issues that we had and the things that we didn't see eye to eye, or even my mom, it's like now I try to take the things that I really loved about my parents and keep it, and then the things that kind of made me feel rejected or hurt by that, I try to leave those out and redo it in a different way. Now, of course, you know what? When they're in their 20s, they're going to be saying, "Oh, Dad didn't do this," or "Dad did too much of that." I mean, that happens no matter how you're raised. But just learning, and growing from that, and hopefully becoming a more whole human being because of your experiences.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and we could quote some verses at this point, right? For all the
sins of the fathers are inherited by the children.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Or God, all things that devil worked out, or like God meant it for good, or something. I can't remember the one.
Very good. Yeah, Romans, but that we all works together for good. Yeah. And wow, you guys are amazing. You really are. I'm curious where you're going, right?
We don't know.
We're showing up on Sunday is what we're doing. We're doing we're interviewing people and finding out where they're going. We're just there to help the journey.
Hey, that's a good question, Dad. How has your theology evolved over the years, as far as like where you came from, where you started at, and where you are now?
Yeah, so as a Baptist deacon and all that, but it's funny. You used to come home from Christian school, and I'd say something, and you go, "You thought I was a heretic."
Did I really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, because I never really accepted the full doctrinal questions, even when I was taking hermeneutics. Right, like it's been kind of a slow march, I suppose. And there are times where you hear something and it resonates, and throughout my whole life, really, it's been the same direction, and what you all have been saying just resonates. Like, wow, finally somebody gets it, right? I don't know if that answers what you're saying, Caleb.
Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, wow,
that's incredible to hear.
Yeah.
No, you all are great.
Thank you, Dad. Wow.
Thank you.
That means a whole lot. So, moving towards wrapping up here, we always ask at the end of every interview. It's just a funny thing because it just kind of came up organically, this question, and now we ask it all the time, almost like a segment in the podcast episode. What are things that you could let us know that we could do better at? What are some things that we can improve on? What are some things we can do more of or less of? Do you have any constructive feedback for us, positive or negative?
Well, first two come to mind.
Get rid of these two guys.
Yeah, you're going to take over?
No, I'm kidding. How do we get real with each other? And like I said, so there's this ministry called Men at the Cross I was with, Bob Hudson, that's the only place I ever found you could be real with people. And so something like that might be an extension. I'm not saying that's necessary, but that for me, if I had to pick any church, to do something like that. And a lot of times guys come back from those experiences. Like we do weekends, we do small groups, and then people say, "I'm never going to church again because church isn't real." But of course they would go back to church. But then I guess the second thing would be just some technology things. Right? Oh, yeah. I could give you lots of advice as an IT guy, but it's just great knowing you guys.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're a sweetie, Dad.
Oh boy,
appreciate that.
This has been an encouraging one. It's been
yeah.
Well, thank you, and you're encouraging me.
Good talk therapy session almost.
Yeah. There you go. I need therapy every day, so for multiple times a day.
Amen.
Hey,
amen.
Hey, brother.
I love you, Dad.
Love you.
Thank you, Greg. Bye-bye.
You too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
We'd like to remind you that our ministry is supported 100% by listeners like you.
Hi, I'm Caleb with Post-Christian Podcasting. If you enjoyed this show, you might also like another Post-Christian podcast, Everyone's Autonomous with Marie Delafont.
My ex-partner and I we're like friends. We're on talking terms and stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of people that want me to like burn every photo ever.
Yeah.
Talk bad about her, you know, and just like pretend like that 5 years didn't exist in my life. And it's like, I think we get these messages both from the religious, but also Hollywood kinds of stuff. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
You know, but it's because that person was supposed to meet all my needs and they didn't. So now I'm going to hate them. It's like, but then I think a more mature thing is like, we weren't at a place where we could work in that kind of relationship together, and we both needed to go different ways.
Yeah, and that's just the end of the story. You guys had a good time together.
Yeah, exactly.
You had your good moments, and why would you want to burn that all up? These are choices that you made.
That was a Post-Christian podcast.